The moment the judge announced the divorce was finalized, the courtroom erupted in a quiet, humiliating buzz. Madeline Crowell stood completely still, her hands trembling against the cold wooden table. She didn't fight, she didn't speak. She simply nodded, agreeing to leave her marriage with absolutely nothing. No assets, no alimony, not even the car she'd been the one paying for. Across the aisle, Chase Whitford smirked like a man who had just won a championship, not destroyed a woman he once claimed to love. His new girlfriend, an influencer with glossy hair and a dress tight enough to attract every camera, leaned into him, whispering loud enough for the courtroom to hear, "See, told you she'd fold. She's too weak to make this messy." Madeline kept her eyes on the floor. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her break, but inside, something was cracking. She felt it. Everyone felt it. A bailiff avoided meeting her eyes. Even the judge paused, as if expecting her to change her mind and fight back. But how could she fight when Chase had drained her savings behind her back, when he'd forged her signature on a loan she never knew existed, when every lawyer she called wanted thousands of dollars she didn't have? So she did the only thing she could: she let go. Chase laughed under his breath. "Told you she was predictable." End quote. As she walked toward the courtroom doors, her cheap heels clicking against marble floors, the whispers followed her like shadows. "Poor thing. She has no one. Where will she go now?" But the moment she stepped outside into the sharp Manhattan air, something unexpected happened. A black Mercedes Maybach was parked illegally in front of the courthouse engine, running, windows tinted. The door opened slowly, deliberately, as if whoever sat inside had been waiting for her and only her. And then she heard a deep voice call her name. "Madeline Crowell, get in. Your life is about to change." Madeline Crowell didn't look like the kind of woman people noticed. Not on the subway, not at work, not even in her own marriage. She was the sort of person New York swallowed whole, quiet, tired, stretched thin by bills and obligations. Her life had never been glamorous. Not even close. Before the divorce, she lived in a faded one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat in Brooklyn, where the walls peeled every winter and the heater clicked like an old typewriter. She woke up at 5:30 every morning, slipped into her second-hand coat, grabbed a burnt-tasting coffee from the corner bodega, and rode the packed F train to her job at a small, chaotic real estate office. She wasn't an agent. She didn't make commissions. She wasn't the woman closing million-dollar deals in glass conference rooms. No, she was the one answering phones, printing paperwork, soothing angry clients, and covering for agents who forgot their own appointments. Her desk was wedged between a broken printer and a filing cabinet that jammed every other day. Still, she showed up always. Rain, snow, fever, exhaustion. She showed up because she had to survive. Her coworkers barely remembered her birthday. Her boss forgot her name every Monday. She brought homemade lunches because even a $12 salad was a luxury she couldn't justify. When something broke in the office, everyone said, "Ask Madeline, she'll figure it out." And she usually did, even if no one thanked her. That was the kind of woman she was. Invisible labor, quiet strength, a backbone no one ever saw. But her marriage to Chase had changed her life in ways she never admitted out loud. Before him, she thought being loved meant being chosen. That if someone picked her, really picked her, the rest of her life would finally make sense. Chase had walked into her world like a promise. Handsome, confident, flashing a smile that made her feel like she mattered. He took her to restaurants she'd only seen on Instagram. He bought her flowers, kissed her forehead, told her she was refreshingly genuine. In hindsight, every compliment had a shadow she missed. He liked that she didn't expect much. He liked that she worked herself to exhaustion. He liked that she had no family to lean on. He liked that she had nothing so he could take everything. But Madeline hadn't known any of that in the beginning. She loved him. She believed in him. She believed the late nights, the mysterious phone calls, the disappearing money were all sacrifices for their future. She believed him when he said his business was just struggling temporarily. She even believed him when he said, "Madeline, you're my good luck charm. I couldn't do any of this without you." Only later did she realize he meant she was useful, not loved. After the divorce hearing, her entire life became a list of losses. She no longer had a marriage, a savings account, or even a stable place to live. What she had was a cardboard box of belongings stored under her desk at work, a handful of crumpled receipts, and a bank account with less than $90. And yet, underneath the exhaustion and heartbreak, something small and stubborn still flickered inside her. A spark she didn't recognize yet. A spark no one expected from the quiet girl in the broken office chair. That spark was the only reason she didn't collapse on the courthouse steps. So, when the black Maybach door opened and a stranger spoke her name with calm certainty, she didn't run, she didn't panic, she didn't doubt. She stepped closer. Because for the first time in years, someone looked at her like she wasn't invisible. And then she saw who was sitting inside the car, someone she should have feared, not followed. Manhattan had a strange way of reminding people exactly where they stood in the hierarchy of power. For Chase Whitford, the city was a playground, gleaming towers, velvet-roped lounges, boardrooms lined with marble, and rooftop bars where deals were made with a single handshake. For Madeleine Crowell, it had always been a battlefield she crossed on foot, weaving through crowds while holding onto the strap of her worn-out tote bag, hoping her Metro card didn't flash insufficient funds again. As she stood before the sleek black Maybach outside the courthouse, the contrast hit her harder than the winter wind. All around her, Fifth Avenue pulsed with expensive perfume, tailored coats, polished leather shoes, and the quiet confidence of people who never had to check their bank accounts before buying lunch. She didn't belong to that world. She never had. But the man in the car did. Madeleine Crowell, the voice repeated, rich and controlled. The kind of voice that didn't ask questions so much as announce direction. She leaned down, peering into the back seat. And there he was, Damien Calder. The name alone carried weight in Manhattan. Founder of Horizon Equity, a billionaire whose business articles filled entire pages of the Wall Street Journal. A man whose watch alone probably cost more than her yearly salary. He was known for rebuilding failing companies with ruthless precision and destroying competitors with even more precision. He shouldn't know her name. He shouldn't even notice someone like her. Yet he looked straight at her, eyes steely and unreadable, as if she were the meeting he'd been preparing for all year. The interior of the car was a world she'd never stepped into, hand-stitched leather, a faint scent of cedar, soft lighting glowing against brushed metal accents. It looked like the inside of a private jet, not a vehicle meant for actual roads. "Get in. You're freezing," he said. I think you have the wrong person," she managed. Damien's expression didn't change. "I don't make mistakes." She hesitated. The courthouse behind her felt like the edge of a cliff she'd just fallen off. She had nowhere to go, no money, and no one to call. For most of her life, Manhattan had ignored her. This was the first time the city, through this man, seemed to be calling her forward instead of pushing her back. She stepped inside. The door closed with a quiet, expensive thud. The city noise disappeared instantly. For a moment, she sat stiffly, hands folded, unsure if she should breathe too loudly. Damien watched her carefully, like an analyst studying market behavior. Not unkind, but intensely, purposefully. "Do you know who I am?" he asked. "Yes," she admitted. "Good. That saves time." The car pulled away from the curb with a smooth glide, heading north on Fifth Avenue. Outside, the world glittered with wealth. Cartier's red banners, the gold trim of Bergdorf Goodman, doormen opening glass doors for women draped in fur. It felt like a movie, a life she had only observed through bus windows. But for the first time, she wasn't outside looking in. She was inside a world she was certain would never welcome her. Damien folded his hands. "I was in the courtroom today," he said. "I saw everything, including what most people missed." Madeleine's stomach tightened. "And what's that?" Damien leaned in slightly, eyes locked on hers. "That Chase Whitford didn't just divorce you," he said quietly. "He tried to bury you alive." Madeleine's pulse spiked. "What do you mean?" Damien held her gaze. "I mean, I know what he forged, and if you come with me to Park Avenue, I'll show you proof." Chase Whitford had always been the type of man who learned early that charm was currency. Growing up in Jacksonville, he wasn't the smartest kid in the room, but he understood something far more valuable. People loved confidence, even if it was hollow. And Chase had perfected the art of hollow. By the time he reached his early 30s, he'd molded himself into the man he always wanted the world to see. Sharp jawline, perfect suits, slick talk, and an ego large enough to fill every rooftop bar in Manhattan. To strangers, he was impressive. To investors, he was up and coming. To women, he was irresistible for exactly 6 months until the shine wore off. To Madeline, though, he had been everything. In their early days, he played his role beautifully. Romantic, attentive, protective. He spoke about building an empire together, about escaping their small lives, about becoming the couple people envy. That was his favorite phrase. Not love, not future envy. It was the first red flag she ignored. Then came the second. His obsession with appearances. Chase cared about perception more than reality. He bought designer shoes before paying rent. He'd rather starve than skip his weekly grooming appointments. He'd rehearse laugh lines before meetings, practicing in the mirror like an actor preparing for a role no one asked him to play. The third red flag landed quietly, dangerously. His temper. Not the loud, violent kind, the cold, punishing kind. If Madeline questioned his spending, he didn't yell. He didn't argue. He simply stopped talking to her for entire weekends, acting as if she didn't exist until she apologized for upsetting him. By the time they moved to New York, he had crafted a persona he wanted the world to worship. Chase Whitford, the visionary real estate entrepreneur. In truth, he was drowning. Every deal he touched collapsed. Every investor he met eventually backed out. He wasn't building a future, he was building debt. And when life backed him into a corner, he made the cruelest pivot of all. He blamed Madeline, told her she didn't support him enough, that her job embarrassed him, that she lacked ambition, that her small paycheck was holding him back. His words were knives carved into compliments. "You're sweet, Mads, but you think too small. I need a woman who fits the world I'm trying to build." Enter the influencer. Ruby Vaughn, pretty, loud, self-centered in a way Chase admired because she demanded the attention he believed he deserved. Ruby didn't love him, not really. She loved the idea of a wealthy man, and Chase was desperate to keep up the illusion. To keep her, he needed money. Fast. That was when he crossed the line he could never uncross. He forged Madeline's signature on a private loan, $50,000 tied to a shell company. He convinced himself she'd never find out. She was too trusting, too busy surviving. And when he filed for divorce, he convinced himself he was doing her a favor. "She'll be fine," he told Ruby. "Women like her always land on their feet." But fate, Manhattan, and Damian Calder had a different plan. Because while Chase celebrated his victory at a rooftop lounge that night, champagne in hand, Ruby on his lap, the skyline glittering like a kingdom he thought he owned, an email notification buzzed across his new phone. A message he shouldn't have ignored. A message revealing that someone had started tracing the forged loan. Chase smirked, muttered, "Probably nothing," and turned his phone face down. He had no idea whose hands that investigation would soon fall into. And he had no idea that the next person knocking on his door would not be a friend. The morning after the divorce, Madeline arrived at work, hoping naively that she could slip back into the anonymity of her old routine. That maybe the world hadn't noticed her collapse. That maybe she could rebuild quietly, starting with organizing files and answering phones like nothing had happened. But Manhattan had other plans. The real estate office was buzzing the moment she walked in. Whispering, phones lifted slightly to cover smirks. 2 agents glanced at her, exchanged looks, and burst into a laugh they pretended was about something else. Her boss, Gerald, with his coffee-stained tie and superiority complex, stood outside his office with a stack of papers in hand. He eyed her the way someone eyes a thing that's about to become inconvenient. "Crowell," he said flatly, "we need to talk." She followed him into his office, clutching her tote bag, hoping this wouldn't be what it already felt like. Gerald didn't even sit down. "I heard you caused quite the scene at the courthouse." "I didn't cause anything," she said quietly. Doesn't matter." He waved his hand as if swatting a fly. "We can't have drama here. This is a real business. Clients read the papers." Her stomach dropped. "Papers? What papers?" Gerald slid his phone across the desk. There it was. A gossip headline from a local online tabloid. "Failed entrepreneur dumps wife, leaves her with debt. Sources say she collapsed at courthouse." There was even a blurry photo of her walking down the courthouse steps alone. Someone had zoomed in to capture her expression of defeat. She felt humiliated all over again. "This isn't fair. I didn't collapse. I didn't." "Doesn't matter," Gerald repeated. "Perception is reality. And reality is, you're a distraction." Her voice cracked. "Are you firing me?" I'm giving you the opportunity to resign gracefully, he said, already reaching for a folder. If not, we'll have to cut ties formally. He slid a pre-written resignation letter across the desk. She stared at the paper, hands trembling. First her marriage, then the forged loan, now her job. Piece by piece, her life was being stripped away, and she didn't even have the strength left to argue. She signed. Walking out of the office felt like walking through a tunnel of eyes. Some pity, some judgment, some pure entertainment. She kept her chin up, but each step felt heavier than the last. Outside, her phone buzzed. One notification, then another, then another. They came so fast she thought her phone was glitching. She pulled it out and saw the messages. Bank alert. Your account is now negative $1,742. Bank alert. Automatic withdrawal processed. Bank alert. Overdraft fee applied. Her breath caught. The forged loan Chase created, the one she didn't sign, had been triggered, and she was now responsible for the debt. A wave of dizziness hit her, forcing her to step back against the cold brick wall of the building. Everything was spinning. Her life had become a chain reaction of disasters she didn't cause but was forced to pay for. And then her phone buzzed again. A new message. Unknown number. You need to get somewhere safe. Now. They're looking for you. Her heart stopped. She hadn't even processed the words when a black SUV pulled up to the curb slowly, deliberately, as if it already knew exactly who it came for. Madeline didn't run when she saw the black SUV pull up. Her legs were too shaky to take her anywhere. The world around her had blurred into noise. Car horns, distant sirens, people brushing past her without a second glance. New York kept moving, even if she couldn't. The SUV rolled to a stop. The rear window lowered just enough for her to see a pair of sharp eyes staring back at her from the shadows. A voice low and controlled spoke her name. Madeline Crowell. She froze. Who are you? What do you want? But instead of answering her, the window closed quietly, like a curtain falling on a stage. The vehicle stayed parked, engine humming. Watching her. Waiting. Madeline took a shaky step backward. Her heart pounded so loudly it drowned out the city. She didn't know whether to scream, run, or call the police. Not that she had much faith in anyone saving her at that moment. Her phone buzzed again. A second message from the unknown number. Don't get in the SUV. Keep walking, blend in. Her breath caught. Her fingers trembled so badly she almost dropped the phone. Walking felt impossible, but standing still felt dangerous. So she forced her legs to move, one step at a time, heading toward the subway entrance at the corner. The SUV didn't follow. It simply idled, watching her until she disappeared down the steps. The subway platform smelled of iron, damp concrete, and exhaustion. She sat on a bench with peeling blue paint and let her tote bag slide off her shoulder. It hit the floor with a dull thud, much heavier than she remembered. Maybe she was just too tired. Everything hit her at once. Her marriage gone. Her job gone. Her bank account negative. Her safety suddenly in question. Her entire life shredded in less than 48 hours. Her chest tightened, her vision blurred. She didn't sob loudly. Hers were the quiet, shaking cries of someone who'd run out of strength to fight anymore. People passed her, some glancing, none stopping. New York was full of broken hearts. She was just another one sitting on a bench. For a moment, she wondered if Chase had sent someone after her. Had he panicked about the forged loan? Was he trying to silence her? Or was the SUV connected to the person texting her? She didn't know which possibility terrified her more. She couldn't go home. Her landlord had already slipped a final warning under her door about late rent. She couldn't go to a friend. She didn't have any close ones left after years of bending her world around Chase's wants. She couldn't go back to the office. She couldn't go anywhere. Her hands shook harder. Her breath came in stuttered bursts. Panic curled around her lungs like a fist. She pulled her knees to her chest and whispered to herself, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. And that was the moment a gentle voice broke through the fog. Madeline? She looked up. A tall woman in a dark burgundy coat stood a few feet away, her expression full of concern. Madeline blinked, confused. She didn't recognize her. I'm sorry, Madeline whispered. Do I know you? The woman offered a soft, reassuring smile. No, but someone asked me to find you. And 17-1. One stray show. Madeline's blood ran cold. Who? The woman took a careful step closer, lowering her voice. Someone who believes you're in danger. Someone who wants to help. Madeline stared at her, pulse pounding. Who sent you? She repeated. The woman's smile faded into something more serious. Damien Calder? Madeline stared at the woman in the burgundy coat. Her breath caught somewhere between fear and disbelief. Damien Calder? She repeated, as if saying the name out loud would make it sound less impossible. The woman nodded. He sent me to get you somewhere safe. Safe. The word felt foreign, almost insulting. Nothing in her life had been safe for longer than she could remember. And now a billionaire, one of the most private, untouchable men in New York, was supposedly involved? Madeline shook her head. There must be some mistake. Damien Calder doesn't even know who I am. Thanks for watching. The woman's eyes softened with a sympathy Madeline didn't trust. He does now. The train roared into the station, blasting cold air across the platform. People rushed past them, pushing toward the doors, but the woman didn't move. She stood steady, focused entirely on Madeline. My name is Evelyn, she said gently. Mr. Calder asked me to find you because you're in danger, and the danger comes from someone you know. Madeline's stomach tightened. Chase. Evelyn didn't deny it. That alone made Madeline's knees weaken. Come with me, Evelyn urged. We can explain everything. Madeline took a shaky step back. No, I'm not going anywhere unless you tell me what's going on. Evelyn hesitated, scanning the platform as if expecting someone to appear out of the shadows. Her voice dropped lower. The loan Chase forged in your name? It wasn't random. It wasn't panic. It was part of a larger pattern. Ivor, it's over. What pattern? He's been presenting fraudulent financial documents to investors, including Horizon Equity. Madeline felt the world tilt. Horizon, as in Damien Calder's company? Evelyn nodded. Chase pitched a development project to Horizon 6 months ago. Mr. Calder's team flagged inconsistencies in his paperwork, but instead of backing off, Chase doubled down. And one of the documents he submitted included the forged loan tied to your signature. Madeline's heart thudded hard. Why would he use my name for that? Why drag me into it? Evelyn's voice softened. Because Chase knew you wouldn't fight it. He needed a clean, innocent identity to anchor the paperwork to. You were the perfect cover. The perfect cover. The words stung like a slap. So he didn't just ruin my life, Madeline whispered. He used me as collateral. Evelyn nodded once. And Mr. Calder believes Chase might try to silence anyone who can expose the forgery. Ice slid through Madeline's veins. The SUV, the messages, the feeling of being watched. It was all connected. Her throat tightened. Why would Damien Calder help me? He doesn't know me. I'm nobody. Evelyn shook her head firmly. You're the only person who can prove Chase falsified his documents, and that gives you more power than you realize. Power. The word didn't fit her. Not yet. The next train thundered past without stopping, sending a gust of air through Madeline's hair. Evelyn looked around again, tense now. Please, she urged. We need to leave before Chase realizes we found you. Madeline exhaled shakily. She had nothing left to lose. No job, no home, no safety. And somehow, unbelievably, her survival now hinged on a billionaire she'd barely spoken to. She swallowed hard. Where are we going? Evelyn gestured toward the stairs. To Mr. Calder's office. He'll show you the evidence himself. But we have to move now. Madeline hesitated for half a heartbeat. Then she picked up her tote bag. Okay, she whispered. Let's go. They reached the top of the stairs, and the moment they stepped outside, Evelyn stopped abruptly, blocking Madeline with her arm. Madeline's breath hitched. What's wrong? Evelyn's voice dropped to a whisper. We're too late. Someone's already waiting for you. At the top of the subway stairs, Evelyn's arm shot out like a barrier, stopping Madeline just inches before she stepped into the open street. A dark sedan idled across the crosswalk, windows tinted, engine humming, low, too patient. Whoever sat inside wasn't there for the view. Evelyn didn't flinch. Stay behind me. Madeline's heart pounded as Evelyn scanned the street with the steadiness of someone who'd done this before. She wasn't just an assistant. She was trained by someone like Damien, someone powerful enough to need protection teams instead of coworkers. The sedan lingered for one breath too long, then pulled away into traffic. Evelyn exhaled slowly. We need to move, now. They hurried down the opposite block, weaving through crowds, the winter wind slicing through Madeline's thin coat. They turned corners, crossed streets, ducked into busy sidewalks, until finally Evelyn stopped in front of a towering glass building on Park Avenue. Horizon Equity. The entrance gleamed like a polished promise. Security guards in tailored suits opened the door without questioning them. The lobby was white marble and gold accents, the kind of space that whispered power rather than showing it. Madeline felt painfully underdressed, painfully out of place, painfully aware of every scuff on her shoes. The elevator doors slid open, revealing a mirrored interior and a soft instrumental track humming through hidden speakers. As they rose floor by floor, Evelyn glanced at her. "You're shaking." "And to see?" Madeline swallowed. "I'm not used to all this." Evelyn softened. "Then get used to it. Your life is about to change more than you think." The elevator opened to the top floor. It was like stepping into another world, a world of order, silence, and wealth so refined it didn't need to announce itself. Floor-to-ceiling windows displayed the Manhattan skyline like a private painting. A long hallway of dark wood led to a pair of glass doors. Evelyn opened them, and Damien Calder looked up from behind his desk. He stood as they entered, tall and composed in a charcoal suit that fit him like it had been sculpted, not sewn. His presence filled the room, not loud, not intimidating, but absolute. The kind of authority people recognized instantly. "Madeline," he said, not as a question, not as a greeting, but as acknowledgement. She felt small, unsure. "Mr. Calder, I don't understand why I'm here." "You will," he replied. He nodded to Evelyn, who slipped out quietly, closing the doors behind her. For a moment, it was just the two of them, the skyline glowing behind him like a crown. Damien approached slowly, hands in his pockets. "You're shaken. That's normal. Your life has been collapsing in ways no one could endure alone." Madeline blinked rapidly, her voice unsteady. "You said Chase tried to bury me." "He did." Damien stopped a few feet away, watching her reaction. "And what he doesn't realize is that his mistake was bigger than fraud." Her pulse kicked. "What mistake?" Damien reached for a folder on the table, a thick one, labeled with her name. "Underestimating you," he said quietly. He handed her the file. Inside were copies of Chase's forged documents, bank statements, signatures that weren't hers, loan transfers she'd never seen. She flipped page after page, her breath tightening. Each piece of evidence wasn't just incriminating, it was devastating. This is enough to destroy him," she whispered. Damien nodded once. "And to save you?" Madeline felt lightheaded. She'd never held power like this, never had a weapon, never had proof. Damien studied her with careful intensity. "You have a choice, Madeline. You can disappear and let him continue hurting people. Or," her eyes lifted to his. "Or what?" she asked. Damien stepped closer, voice lowering. "Or you can fight back with me." Madeline stared at Damien, the words echoing through her like an electric current. "Fight back with me." It didn't sound like a threat. It didn't sound like a rescue. It sounded like an offer. A door she never expected would open for her. A door she didn't even know existed. But the fear inside her was still alive. "Why me?" she whispered. "I'm not powerful. I'm not connected. I'm nothing." Damien's expression didn't shift. "That's where you're wrong. You are the one person Chase never expected to stand up, and that makes you unpredictable. Unpredictability is power." Her breath trembled. "But I don't know how to fight someone like him." Damien stepped closer, not invading her space, but anchoring it. "You don't need to know yet. You just need to take the first step." She swallowed hard. "Which is?" He turned toward the window, the Manhattan skyline stretching beneath them like a glittering chessboard. "Tomorrow night, Horizon Equity is hosting its annual corporate gala. Every major investor, board member, and industry giant will be there. And Chase Whitford, desperate and scrambling, will be attending to pitch his final chance development project." Madeline stiffened. "You're inviting me?" "To that? You won't be attending as a guest." Damien met her gaze again. "You'll be arriving as someone who has the truth. Someone who deserves to be seen. Someone who refuses to be humiliated again. If you wonder as res." Her heart thudded. "I don't have anything to wear. I don't even have a place to sleep tonight." Damien didn't blink. "Evelyn already booked a suite for you at the plaza. It's waiting, and you'll find everything you need there." The plaza. It sounded like another planet, another universe, a world with warmth and chandeliers instead of flickering apartment lights and peeling paint. "But why?" she whispered. "Why are you helping me?" "Really?" Damien's jaw tightened, as if the real answer lived somewhere behind his ribs and he wasn't ready to release it. "Because Chase is about to hurt a lot more people if he goes unchecked. And because no one should get away with burying someone who never deserved to be buried." He paused. "And because you remind me of someone." Madeline's breath caught, but before she could ask who, he lifted a hand slightly, ending the conversation. "You'll leave with Evelyn. Rest tonight. Tomorrow, everything changes." She nodded slowly, still not fully believing any of this was real. Still not believing that after so many months of shrinking herself down just to survive, someone was finally telling her to rise. Evelyn re-entered the office like she'd been waiting for the cue. "Ready?" Madeline nodded, picking up the folder of evidence. It felt heavier now, not like a burden, but like armor. Hours later, as the elevator carried her down to the polished lobby and out into the evening city lights, Madeline felt something she hadn't felt in years. Purpose. She wasn't healed. She wasn't fearless. She wasn't magically strong, but she was no longer invisible. Evelyn escorted her into a waiting car. The interior was warm, quiet, safe. As they drove up Fifth Avenue toward the plaza's glowing awning, Madeline pressed her forehead gently against the window, watching the city blur into streaks of gold. Tomorrow night, Chase would be standing on a stage, surrounded by cameras and investors, bragging about his success. And tomorrow night, she would walk into that same room, not as his discarded wife, not as his stepping stone, not as his scapegoat, but as the woman who held his downfall in her hands. Evelyn glanced at her. "You okay?" Madeline nodded slowly. "No," she whispered. "But I will be." The car pulled up to the plaza's entrance. A doorman stepped forward, ready to open the door. Madeline inhaled, preparing to step into her new life. But before she could move, Evelyn's phone buzzed sharply. She looked at the screen. Her face drained of color. "Madeline," she whispered, "Chase found out you're alive." Evelyn's voice trembled in a way Madeline had never heard before. It wasn't fear. It was urgency, a warning sharp enough to slice through the heated air inside the car. "Chase found out you're alive." Madeline's pulse quickened. "What does that even mean?" "Of course I'm alive. He saw me at the courthouse." Evelyn shook her head. "No. He found out you didn't disappear like he expected. He assumed the forged loan and the debt collectors would scare you into running. But you didn't vanish. And now word spread that you were seen entering Horizon Equity. Tigester." Madeline's blood ran cold. Chase knew. Chase always spiraled when he lost control. The doorman at the plaza stepped closer, unaware of the hurricane building inside the car. Evelyn placed a hand on Madeline's wrist. "We go upstairs. We stay out of sight. Security is already on alert. You're safe here tonight." Madeline exhaled shakily. Safe still felt like a foreign language. Inside the hotel, the warmth hit her instantly. Polished marble floors, golden chandeliers, velvet accents. Everything gleamed with luxury, elegance, and stability. The opposite of her cracked apartment walls and flickering overhead bulbs. For the first time in months, she felt something unclench inside her chest. Her suite was breathtaking, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a king-size bed dressed in crisp white linens, a glass table with a handwritten note. She picked it up. "Rest. Tomorrow you rise. D.C." Damien Calder was not poetic, but the message settled over her like armor. She wasn't alone, not anymore. Evelyn walked her through the suite, pointing to the closet where several evening gowns hung silk, satin, jewel tones. Not flashy, not loud, powerful. "Mr. Calder selected them himself," Evelyn added. "He said you should choose whichever one matches who she's becoming." Madeline traced her fingertips across a deep emerald gown. "They're beautiful. I've never worn anything like this. Tomorrow, you will. And Instan." Madeline felt a knot of fear and anticipation twist inside her. "I'm not ready." Evelyn shook her head gently. "No one is ever ready for a fight until they're already in it." Madeline sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the city lights. Everything felt unreal: danger outside, luxury inside, and a storm waiting to break. She was exhausted, but sleep felt impossible. Hours passed. She showered, changed into the plush robe, and sat near the window, knees hugged to her chest. At 1:14 a.m., her phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. Did you really think you could run to him? Madeline froze. Another message appeared instantly. You were nothing before me. You'll be nothing after me. Her breath hitched. Chase. She blocked the number with trembling fingers. But 5 seconds later, her phone buzzed again from another number. See you at the Gallimads. Her stomach nodded. A soft knock echoed through the suite. Madeline nearly jumped. Who is it? Room service. A male voice answered. Evelyn poked her head out of the second room where she'd been reviewing security notes. I didn't order anything. Madeline frowned. Neither did I. Both women fell silent. Another knock, firmer this time. Room service, the voice repeated, but something about the tone had changed. Less polite, less patient. Evelyn grabbed Madeline's arm, her voice barely above a whisper. Back away from the door. Madeline stepped back. Her heart hammered. Evelyn slowly approached the door, checking the peephole, then stiffened. What? Who is it? Madeline whispered. Evelyn swallowed hard. No name badge. No uniform. And he's covering the peephole with his hand. Evelyn's face turned pale. The kind of pale that only appeared when danger wasn't hypothetical anymore. It was on the other side of the door. Her voice was a low whisper as she stepped back, positioning herself between Madeline and the threat. He's covering the peephole, she repeated, eyes locked on the door. That's deliberate. Madeline's pulse roared in her ears. What do we do? Evelyn motioned silently toward the corner of the room. Move back. Stay low. Don't make any sound. Madeline obeyed, her legs trembling as she crouched behind the armchair. The room suddenly felt smaller, colder. It was supposed to be a place of safety. The plaza, with its gold-trimmed luxury, its soft carpets, its quiet promise of protection, but now danger had walked right up to her door and knocked. Another knock came. Harder. Room service, the voice repeated, but the words were too tight, too forced, too rehearsed. Whoever stood outside didn't care whether they convinced her. They just wanted her to open the door. Evelyn grabbed her phone, dialed quickly. Calder security, suite 1907. Immediate response needed, she whispered. Unknown male at the door, possibly armed. Thanks for watching. Madeline clamped a hand over her mouth, trying not to breathe too loudly. Another knock, this time paired with the faint sound of a hand pressing against the door, testing its weight. Evelyn tapped the screen, muting the call while the dispatcher mobilized teams. She slid closer to the door, careful, calculating, waiting for the intruder to make a mistake. Footsteps sounded in the hallway, slow, deliberate pacing. Madeline's fear sharpened. Do you think it's Chase? She whispered. Evelyn shook her head. Chase isn't subtle. This is someone he sent. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then the voice returned lower now, as if the stranger were leaning directly against the door. Madeline, I know you're in there. The words turned her blood to ice. She hadn't heard that voice before. It wasn't Chase. It wasn't anyone she knew. And that made it 10 times more terrifying. The man tried the handle. Metal clicked, but the lock held. Then, suddenly, he laughed. A soft, chilling laugh that told her everything she needed to know. He wasn't here to talk. He was here to take her somewhere she wouldn't return from. Evelyn raised a finger, signaling Madeline to stay silent. Her other hand wrapped around the heavy lamp on the table, a makeshift weapon. She moved without panic, without hesitation. 3 sharp knocks rang out, but this time they weren't from the door. They were from farther down the hallway, loud, commanding knocks, followed by the unmistakable sound of multiple footsteps. Security. Sir, step away from the door. A voice boomed. The intruder cursed under his breath. Then the sound of running footsteps pounded against the hallway carpet. Apprehend him, another voice shouted. Evelyn exhaled, shoulders dropping slightly, but she didn't relax. Stay where you are, she warned Madeline. We're not safe until I say we are. If leader. Shouts echoed outside, a scuffle, struggling, then quiet. A firm knock sounded at the door. Miss Crowell, Calder security. The suspect is in custody. Evelyn looked through the peephole this time. 3 men in black suits stood waiting, badges in hand. Evelyn opened the door cautiously. Clear? Clear, the lead guard confirmed. Mr. Calder instructed us to escort Miss Crowell to Horizon's private residence wing for the remainder of the night. No one gets to her without authorization. To one of court, Madeline stepped out slowly, adrenaline still clinging to her bones. Is he gone? Yes, the guard confirmed. He won't be a problem anymore. As they led her toward the private elevator, Evelyn stayed close. You see now, she whispered. This isn't just about a forged loan. This is bigger. Chase isn't playing games anymore. Madeline swallowed hard. So, what happens now? The elevator doors opened, the interior lined with polished steel and soft gold lighting. Evelyn placed a steady hand on her back. Now we prepare for the gala because Chase just made the biggest mistake of his life. The private elevator ascended smoothly, so silent Madeline could hear her own heartbeat echo in her chest. Calder security flanked her on both sides, creating a protective shield as they rose toward the upper floors the public would never see, floors meant only for executives and people who mattered. Madeline had never been one of those people. Yet here she was. When the elevator doors opened, she stepped into a serene hallway lined with modern art and soft glowing wall sconces. A suite door at the end bore discreet gold lettering. Horizon Residential Private Access Only. Evelyn unlocked it with a keycard. Welcome to your safe house, she said calmly. Madeline stepped inside. It wasn't a room. It was an entire penthouse floor, sleek gray marble, warm lighting, minimalist furniture, and floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a sweeping view of Central Park. Even the air felt different here. Lighter, calmer, controlled. She turned slowly, stunned. This is, for me? Evelyn offered a small smile. Temporarily, until the gala, Mr. Calder insisted you shouldn't stay in public lodging anymore. Madeline hugged herself, exhaustion settling in. I still can't believe Chase sent someone after me. What was he planning to do? Evelyn hesitated. I don't know, but I do know he's desperate, and a desperate man makes unpredictable choices. Inside the penthouse, a rack of gowns and accessories awaited more refined, more powerful than the dresses at the plaza. Midnight black, deep sapphire, a gold gown that shimmered like the skyline. Next to them sat a jewelry box, holding pieces so delicate she didn't dare touch them. What is all this? Madeline whispered. Protection, Evelyn said. At the gala, appearance is armor. Chase expects the woman he discarded. He won't expect the woman you're becoming. Madeline stared at the gowns with a mixture of awe and doubt. I still feel like that discarded woman. Not tomorrow, Evelyn replied. Across the suite, a large folder lay on the glass table. Evelyn tapped it lightly. More evidence, she said. Mr. Calder spent all night gathering new documents. Turns out, Chase did more than forge your signature. Madeline stiffened. What do you mean? Evelyn looked at her evenly. There are offshore accounts, shell companies, investors he scammed. This isn't just fraud anymore. It's criminal, and the wrong step from him could ruin a lot of very powerful people. And me, Madeline whispered. That's why tomorrow is crucial. Evelyn took a seat beside her. The gala will be crawling with reporters, investors, attorneys. If Chase tries to spin a story, we'll already have ours ready. Madeline exhaled shakily. I don't know if I can stand in a room with him. You won't be standing alone. As if on cue, the penthouse door opened again. Damien Calder stepped in. Madeline straightened instantly, unsure whether to stand or breathe. Damien looked different tonight, looser tie, sleeves rolled slightly, the slightest hint of fatigue shadowing his eyes. But even tired, he radiated authority. Madeline, his voice was quiet, controlled. You're safe here? She nodded. Thanks to Evelyn. Good. He stepped closer, eyes scanning her face, not with pity, but with a strange intensity. Tomorrow will be difficult. You need rest. I don't think I can sleep. His gaze softened barely, but enough for her to notice. You will, he said. Fear is temporary. But what happens tomorrow, that's permanent. Madeline swallowed. What exactly will happen tomorrow? Damien didn't answer. Instead, he reached into the inner pocket of his suit jacket and placed a sealed envelope on the table before her. This, he said, is something Chase never wanted you to see. You'll open it in the morning. Madeline's fingers hovered over it. What's inside? Damien held her gaze firmly, decisively. The final piece that will destroy him. Madeline didn't open the envelope that night. She wanted to God. She wanted to. but Damien's voice echoed in her mind. "You'll open it in the morning." And something about the certainty in his tone made her trust him more than she trusted herself. So instead, she stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out at Central Park while New York flickered beneath her like an electrical current she was finally learning to touch. For the first time in months, the air didn't feel hostile. It felt charged, and that terrified her more than anything Chase had done. Evelyn returned at dawn, carrying 2 cups of black coffee and a calmness that steadied the room. "Big day," she said softly. "You ready?" Madeline almost laughed. Ready? She wasn't ready to confront her reflection most days, let alone face the man who had dismantled her life. Yet something inside her had shifted, a quiet, trembling resolve that hadn't existed before. "Show me what I need to do," she said. And Evelyn did. The next 4 hours moved like a boot camp for the soul. First came posture. "Stand like someone who's been hurt but refused to stay down," Evelyn instructed, tilting Madeline's chin upward. "Strength isn't theatrical. It's steady." Then voice. "Chase will try to rattle you. He'll poke at your old wounds. The best revenge is sounding unbothered." Then presence. Men like Chase collapse when you stop shrinking in front of them. By the time the clock struck noon, Madeline stood straighter. Not perfect, not magically confident, but changed. When she opened the envelope Damien had given her, Evelyn stepped back, watching quietly. Inside was a single sheet of paper, heavy linen stock, sharp ink, official. Madeline's breath caught. It wasn't evidence. It wasn't a document Chase forged. It was a contract. A legally binding partnership agreement naming her as a consulting asset for Horizon Equity, retroactive to the date of Chase's forged loan. Her signature wasn't required. Damien had structured it specifically, so she had standing without needing to sign a thing. What is this?" she whispered. Evelyn's smile was small but full of meaning. "Protection. Legally, Chase can't harm you without harming Horizon now. And Mr. Calder made sure it's airtight." Madeline blinked back tears. "Why would he do this for me?" "Ask him tonight," Evelyn said simply. By late afternoon, the penthouse transformed into a preparation suite. Hairstylists, makeup artists, a seamstress adjusting the emerald gown Damien had chosen. Not flashy, not seductive, regal. When Madeline finally stepped in front of the mirror, she barely recognized herself. The woman staring back had clarity in her eyes, calm on her face, power in her posture. A woman Chase couldn't break. A woman Chase had never met. Evelyn clasped a diamond pendant around Madeline's neck. "Now you look like someone who belonged in those boardrooms all along." Madeline swallowed. "I'm scared." "Bresnit. You're human," Evelyn corrected. "But you are not the victim anymore." At 6 p.m., a discreet knock sounded. A voice on the other side announced, "Mr. Calder is waiting downstairs." Madeline's pulse soared. Evelyn handed her a shawl, then opened the door. "Go. Tonight decides everything." Madeline stepped into the private elevator, heart thrumming. When the doors parted, Damien stood in the marble lobby, hands in his pockets, eyes lifting to meet hers. For a moment, just a moment, something unreadable crossed his expression. Surprise, approval, maybe even something deeper. He offered his arm. "Shall we?" She nodded, placing her hand gently on his sleeve. Outside, a long black car waited. The gala lights glittered in the distance. Damien opened the door for her. But before she stepped inside, a sudden flash exploded across the sidewalk. Paparazzi. Dozens of them. Because someone had leaked her presence. And the first shouted question hit her like a bullet. "Madeline Crowell, why is Chase Whitford accusing you of sabotage?" The first camera flash blinded Madeline so abruptly she flinched. Paparazzi surged forward like a wave hitting shore, shouting her name as if she were a scandalous celebrity instead of a woman who'd spent most of her life unnoticed. "Madeline, look here. If you know, is it true you sabotaged Chase Whitford's deal? Why are you with Damien Calder tonight?" "Sabotage?" Her pulse spiked. She turned toward Damien instinctively. His expression changed in an instant, calm turning razor sharp, eyes cutting through the chaos with the cold precision of a man who had predicted this exact move. "Get in the car," he said, low and steady. "But, now." Evelyn and 2 security agents sliced through the crowd, clearing a path. Cameras kept flashing, voices kept hurling accusations, and someone thrust a microphone inches from her face. "Madeline, Are you using Calder to get revenge on your ex? Did you falsify documents to ruin Chase's reputation? Is this all about money? She felt the edges of panic claw up her throat, but Damien's hand brushed her lower back, steady, grounding, a silent command to move. She ducked into the car as security held reporters back. The door slammed shut. Silence crashed over her like a blanket. Damien slid into the seat beside her a moment later, jaw tight, eyes dark with a fury she hadn't seen before. The driver pulled away immediately. "What was that?" Madeline whispered, voice shaking. "A distraction," Damien said. "A distraction?" "That was an ambush." "Exactly," he replied, looking directly at her. "And Chase orchestrated it." Madeline's breath hitched. How? How could he twist things this fast? Damien leaned back, exhaling slowly. He's cornered. And when men like him panic, they weaponize perception. The city lights streaked past the windows as the car sped toward the Horizon Gala at the Park Hyatt. Madeline hugged her arms around herself, trying to steady her breathing. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Sabotage? Why would he accuse me of that?" Damien opened his phone and handed it to her. A headline blazed across the screen. Breaking. Chase Whitford claims ex-wife tried to destroy his career after divorce. Sources say she stole financial documents and leaked them to Horizon Equity. Madeline felt like the air had been punched out of her. That's insane. He's the one who forged my signature." "Which he knows," Damien said evenly. "So he's manufacturing a counter-narrative before the truth hits." She covered her face with trembling hands. "Everyone will believe him." "Bettino." "No," Damien corrected softly. "Not everyone. And, after tonight, no one will." The car slowed as they approached the gala entrance, flanked by shimmering lights and a red carpet stretching like a battlefield waiting for its warriors. Limousines lined the curb, luxury gowns shimmered, photographers buzzed like hornets. Madeline swallowed hard. "I'm not ready for this." Damien's gaze locked with hers, steady, certain, unshaken. "Yes, you are." He leaned slightly closer, his voice lowering. "Tonight, you walk in with your head high. You don't hide, you don't flinch, because the moment you step inside that ballroom, Chase loses the one advantage he thinks he still has." "What advantage?" she whispered. Damien's jaw tightened. "The belief that you're afraid." The car rolled to a stop. A valet opened the door. Music drifted from inside the hotel. Soft strings, warm lighting, laughter from the rich and powerful. A world designed to intimidate. Madeline's heart thudded painfully. She stepped out, gown shimmering under the lights. Gasps rippled through the waiting crowd. She wasn't invisible anymore. Security surrounded her immediately, guiding her up the steps. Damien followed at her side, a living shield of power and presence. But just as they reached the doors of the ballroom, Evelyn rushed toward them, breathless, eyes wide with urgency. "Damien," she whispered sharply, "we have a problem." He tensed. "What now?" Evelyn looked between the two of them, voice trembling. "Chase is already inside, and he's not alone." Chase Whitford being inside the gala was bad enough, but it wasn't the news that sent a cold ripple down Damien's spine. It was Evelyn's pale face, the way her voice shook when she whispered, "He's not alone." Damien's voice sharpened. "Who did he bring?" Evelyn swallowed hard. "Someone you're not going to like." End quote. Madeline's heartbeat climbed into her throat as they walked deeper into the grand ballroom, a world of crystal chandeliers, golden floral arrangements, and the hum of Manhattan's elite sipping champagne as though they owned gravity itself. Beautiful. Expensive. Dangerous. Damien placed a steadying hand at the small of her back, guiding her through the glittering crowd. People began whispering the moment they saw her, their eyes darting from her emerald gown to Damien's presence by her side. "Who is she? Is that the ex-wife? Why would Calder bring her? Didn't you read the article? She's trouble." Every sentence was a needle. But Madeline kept her head high, just as Evelyn taught her. Her spine straightened, shoulders squared, chin lifted. They stopped near the edge of the ballroom. Evelyn nodded discreetly toward the center of the crowd. "There." Madeline followed her gaze, and the world tilted. Standing under the chandelier, wearing a white silk gown like she owned the room, was Ruby Von Chase's girlfriend. Except she wasn't alone. Beside her, wearing a tailored navy suit and a grin coated in arrogance, stood Gerald, her former boss. The man who forced her to resign, claiming she was bad for business. Madeline's lungs froze. "Why is he here?" she whispered. Evelyn's face hardened. "Because he sold you out." Damien's jaw clenched. "I should have known Chase wouldn't act alone." The crowd parted like they had rehearsed it, and Chase appeared, swaggering toward Ruby and Gerald. He kissed Ruby, shook Gerald's hand, then lifted a champagne glass like he was toasting his own brilliance. Madeline felt something twist deep in her chest. Betrayal layered on betrayal. She had expected Chase. She even expected Ruby. But Gerald, the man who barely remembered her name? Damien leaned closer. "Gerald leaked your employment records. The narrative about you stealing documents? It came from him." Madeline's vision blurred for a moment, not with tears, but with anger she barely recognized as her own. Chase finally spotted them. His smug grin widened as he sauntered across the ballroom, cutting through clusters of impressed guests who parted for him like he was royalty. "Well, well," he drawled, raising his glass. "Didn't think you'd have the guts to show up, Mads." Madeline blinked, steadying her breath. "I wasn't hiding, bull." Chase laughed, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Sure, you weren't. Everyone hides when they're guilty." "Guilty of what?" Damien's voice sliced through the space, low and lethal. Chase didn't shy away. He turned toward Damien with an oily smile. "Nice to finally meet the man my ex-wife ran to. I hope she didn't sell you any sob stories." Madeline's blood simmered, but then Chase stepped closer, too close, smirking down at her. "You look nice, Mads. Shame it won't matter after tonight." Damien took a subtle step forward, shoulders broadening, eyes dark. "Careful," he warned quietly. Chase ignored him. "The board's already talking. Investors too. Everyone's heard how you tried to sabotage my project. You're finished." Madeline did something she didn't expect of herself. She laughed. Softly, but with clarity. Chase blinked. "What the hell are you laughing at?" Madeline met his eyes steady, unflinching. "You're panicking." End quote. The murmurs around them grew louder. Chase's smirk faltered. Ruby tugged his arm nervously. "Chase, baby, maybe not here." "Shut up," he hissed at her. Damien's eyes hardened. "Madeline." She inhaled, held Damien's gaze, then faced Chase again. "You shouldn't have come tonight," she said softly, "because you have no idea what's waiting for you." Chase leaned in, whispering sharply, "You think you have something on me?" Madeline didn't answer. Instead, she turned, and the entire room gasped. Because standing behind her, having walked in unnoticed, was a man no one expected to see tonight. A federal investigator carrying a sealed warrant with Chase Whitford's name printed at the top. The ballroom fell silent, as if someone had sliced the music mid-note. Champagne glasses paused halfway to lips. A sea of wealthy donors and investors turned toward the unexpected newcomer, a federal agent in a dark suit, badge gleaming under the chandelier's light. Chase Whitford's smile died instantly. The agent stepped forward. "Chase Whitford." Chase swallowed hard. "Yeah? Who wants to know?" The agent removed an envelope from his inner jacket. "I'm Special Agent Carter, Department of Financial Crimes. I need to speak with you about several irregularities connected to your recent development proposal." Whispers ignited across the crowd like sparks catching fire. Damien stepped slightly closer to Madeline, not possessively, but protectively, eyes trained on Chase like a strategist watching a losing opponent make his final desperate moves. Chase forced a grin. "This is ridiculous. Someone clearly fed you bad information." Agent Carter didn't blink. "We have a warrant to collect documents pertaining to alleged forgery, fraudulent loan applications, and investor deception." Chase's face drained of color. Ruby Vaughn clung to his arm, but even she looked shaken now. "Chase, what is he talking about?" Gerald, Madeline's former boss, shifted uncomfortably. Sweat already glistened at his temple, Damien noticed. Madeline noticed too. Agent Carter continued, "We have reason to believe these documents involve the unauthorized use of your ex-wife's identity." Every eye in the room turned to Madeline. She didn't shrink. "Not tonight." Chase exploded, pointing at her. "She's lying. She's been trying to destroy my career ever since she left me." Agent Carter raised an eyebrow. "Actually, the evidence didn't come from her." A hush swept the ballroom. Damien's eyes sharpened like a blade. Madeline frowned. "Then where did it come from?" Agent Carter gestured toward the far side of the room, and everyone turned. There, Standing awkwardly near the dessert table was a young man in an ill-fitting suit, clutching a folder so tightly his knuckles turned white. Madeline blinked. "Is that?" Evelyn whispered. "Chase's former assistant, Liam." Chase turned an unnatural shade of red. "You little—" Liam raised the folder like a shield. I didn't want to be part of this anymore. You made me forge things and threaten people. And then you said no one would ever find out. But she didn't deserve any of it." Ruby gasped. "Chase, you dragged me into this mess?" Chase hissed, "Keep your voice down." But it was too late. The crowd had turned against him. Agent Carter took a step forward. "Mr. Whitford, we need you to come with us." Chase pointed frantically at Madeline. "This is a setup. Calder put you up to this, didn't he? You think you're powerful because you're standing next to him? He's using you." For a moment, the ballroom held its breath. Damien spoke with quiet authority. "The only person who used Madeline is you." Chase lunged, but 2 agents intercepted him instantly. Ruby backed away, horrified. Gerald looked like he might faint. Liam clutched his folder like it weighed 1,000 pounds. As Chase was escorted toward the side exit, he twisted around, rage burning in his eyes. "This isn't over, Mads. You think you won tonight? You think you can walk in here wearing a fancy dress and ruin me? Just wait until—" His voice was cut off as the agents dragged him out of sight. The ballroom erupted with murmurs, speculation, shock. Madeline exhaled shakily. It was over. Or at least, it should have been. But something in Damien's posture told her the storm wasn't done. His jaw clenched. His eyes tracked Gerald, who had begun inching away toward the back of the ballroom. "What's wrong?" she asked softly. Damien leaned down just enough for only her to hear. "Chase isn't the only guilty one. And the next person is about to make a very stupid move." Madeline's eyes widened. "Who?" Damien nodded toward the trembling man, slipping through the crowd. "Gerald, her former boss." Carrying a stolen flash drive in his palm, headed straight for the exit. Gerald moved like a man who believed speed would erase guilt. Shoulders hunched, breath quick, eyes darting everywhere but behind him. The ballroom was a labyrinth of glittering gowns and expensive cologne, and he pushed through it with the desperation of someone trying to outrun fate. Damien didn't hesitate. "Stay with Evelyn," he told Madeline, his voice low but sharp as steel. Madeline grabbed his arm. "Wait, what's on the flash drive?" Damien met her eyes. Everything Chase didn't want anyone to see, and everything Gerald helped him hide. "And if he escapes?" Damien's eyes hardened. "Then Chase won't be the only one going to prison." He slipped into the crowd like a shadow. Evelyn touched Madeline's arm. "We have to follow at a distance. If Gerald panics, he might destroy the evidence." Madeline nodded, heart pounding as they moved through the ballroom. The chandeliers glittered above them, the music resumed softly, and wealthy guests resumed sipping champagne as if federal arrests were a routine form of entertainment. But for Madeline, the gala wasn't glamorous anymore. It was a battlefield. Gerald shoved past a server holding a tray of chocolate truffles, nearly knocking the poor man over. He muttered something, but Gerald never looked back. He was sweating through his collar, fumbling the flash drive in his palm, trying to hide it as he stormed toward the exit corridor. Evelyn whispered, "He's heading toward the service wing. There's a loading dock back there unmonitored." Madeline felt her stomach twist. "If he gets outside—" "Yes," Evelyn said grimly, "he's gone." They pushed forward, weaving between guests and slipping into the quieter hallway behind the ballroom. The lighting dimmed, the music softened, and the opulence faded into stark white walls and emergency exit signs. They were close. Madeline heard the hurried footsteps. Gerald's voice, frantic, trembling. Pick up, damn it." She and Evelyn froze at the corner. Gerald was on the phone. "Chase is gone. He's gone, you understand?" "They took him," Gerald cried. "I'm not going down alone. You promised protection." Madeline's heart dropped. He wasn't talking to Chase. He was talking to someone else. Someone higher. "I still have the drive," Gerald whispered. "If you get me out of here, I can destroy it. No one will know you were involved." Madeline's throat tightened. Evelyn's eyes widened. Someone else was in this scandal. Gerald listened to the phone, nodding frantically. I'm going. Meet me at the—" He froze. A hand landed on his shoulder. "Damien." Calm, controlled, deadly quiet. You're not going anywhere, Gerald. End quote. Gerald spun around, face ghostly white. Damien, I can explain. You forged documents. You leaked lies. You took money to keep Chase's scam alive, Damien said. And now you're negotiating with someone outside this mess to save yourself? Gerald shook, gripping the flash drive tighter. You don't know what you're dealing with. They'll ruin all of us. Damien's voice dropped. Give me the drive. Gerald stepped back. No, I'm not. He turned to run. Evelyn shouted, Madeline, stay back. But Gerald never made it 2 steps. A security guard stepped out from the hallway, blocking him. Cornered, panicking, Gerald lunged for the emergency door, slamming his shoulder against it, but the alarm triggered instantly. Bright red lights flashed. A siren blared through the corridor. Madeline flinched. Gerald screamed at the guard, Let me go. I have rights. If you've reportin', 2020-2040. But the guard restrained him, and the flash drive tumbled from Gerald's shaking hand, skidding across the floor until it stopped at Madeline's feet. She stared at it, the tiny object that held the truth. She crouched down, picked it up, and felt a strange surge of power ripple through her. Gerald's face twisted in fear. Please, don't give it to him. You don't understand what's coming. Madeline straightened slowly. Her eyes lifted toward Damien, who stood still, watching her, not instructing, not pushing, letting her decide. She stepped forward and placed the flash drive in Damien's hand. Gerald collapsed, defeated. But as Damien closed his fingers around the evidence, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his expression darkened. Madeline felt her chest tighten. What is it? Damien said nothing for a moment. Then, it's not over. Someone else just entered the gala, and they asked for you by name. Madeline felt the air change around them. It wasn't fear. Fear was familiar by now. This was something colder. A presence she didn't understand yet, but Damien clearly did. His jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing at his phone screen as though it were a warning shot. Who asked for me? Madeline whispered. Damien didn't answer immediately. He looked up, scanning the hallway, processing every variable like a man solving an equation no one else could see. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, controlled. Someone powerful enough to walk past federal agents without being stopped. Evelyn's expression darkened. He wouldn't. Damien slid his phone back into his jacket. He did. Madeline's stomach twisted. Who are you talking about? Before anyone could answer, a sharp click echoed through the corridor. Footsteps. Slow. Even. Confident. They grew louder, approaching from the ballroom entrance. Madeline turned, heart pounding, expecting another officer, or worse, another of Chase's hired shadows. But the man who appeared was nothing like she expected. Tall, impeccably dressed in a black tuxedo tailored within an inch of perfection. Salt and pepper hair slicked back. A face carved from calm arrogance. He moved with the quiet authority of someone used to commanding rooms, companies, entire empires. He smiled an elegant, chilling smile. Madeline Crowell, he said, as if tasting the name. At last. Damien stepped in front of her. Turn around, Lennox, he warned. You don't belong here. Madeline blinked. Lennox? The man chuckled softly. He didn't tell you about me? Oh, Damien, still keeping your past tidy and sanitized. Evelyn muttered under her breath, this is bad. Madeline looked between them, her pulse racing. Who is he? Damien's voice almost growled. His name is Nathaniel Lennox, CEO of Lennox Global. Nathaniel nodded politely, as though she should already have known. Chase's real backer, the one who funded his fraudulent pitch, the one who stood to profit if Horizon Equity bought into their scheme. The pieces clicked so fast, Madeline felt dizzy. You funded Chase? She whispered. Lennox smiled. I backed a potential winner. Unfortunately, he was sloppy. His eyes drifted to Gerald, now cuffed on the floor, and his little helpers even more so. Gerald whimpered. Mr. Lennox? I tried to call. Nathaniel dismissed him with a flick of his fingers. You've already failed me. Madeline felt a chill crawl up her spine. You were behind Chase's forged loan? She asked, voice unsteady. Inspired it, Lennox corrected. Chase needed leverage. He was desperate, you were convenient. Madeline staggered back as the truth settled over her like a blow. But Lennox wasn't done. You see, my dear, Chase's downfall is unfortunate, but survivable for me. What I cannot allow. His eyes hardened. Is you walking into tomorrow, free and powerful? Damien stepped fully between them now. You won't touch her, he said, every syllable sharp. Nathaniel's smile thinned. You always were sentimental, Damien. It's why you lost your last company. Madeline froze. What? She whispered. Damien didn't respond. But something in his posture, tight, guarded, told her the words cut deeper than Lennox intended. Nathaniel clasped his hands behind his back. Now, you're going to hand me the flash drive, and Madeline will walk out of here quietly. No gala speech, no evidence, no federal involvement. This ends tonight, cleanly. Damien didn't blink. No. Nathaniel sighed. Then I'll take the fall, after I bury her reputation so deep she never recovers. Madeline felt her breath catch. The crowd noise from the ballroom faded. Everything narrowed into this hallway, this moment. Nathaniel leaned forward slightly. Your move, Miss Crowell. Madeline felt Damien's arm shift back, as if instinctively shielding her. But before she could speak, before Damien could speak, there was a new sound behind them. A quiet voice. Firm. Familiar. Actually, it's mine. Madeline whipped around. And there, stepping into the hallway in a tailored midnight suit and a federal badge hanging from his belt, was Liam's older brother, an undercover federal prosecutor, holding a second warrant with Nathaniel Lennox's name printed at the top. Liam's older brother, Assistant U.S. Attorney Marcus Doyle, stepped into the hallway with the calm, lethal confidence of a man who'd spent years dismantling empires piece by piece. His presence shifted the entire corridor. Even the security guards straightened. Nathaniel Lennox froze mid-breath. Damien's spine lifted subtly, as if bracing for impact. Madeline felt her own heartbeat steady, not because the danger vanished, but because for the first time since this nightmare began, power walked in on her side. Marcus held up the warrant. Nathaniel Lennox, you are under federal investigation for collusion, financial coercion, and accessory involvement in multiple acts of document fraud tied to Chase Whitford. Thanks for watching. Nathaniel let out a soft laugh, the kind powerful men use when they think the room is joking. Assistant Attorney Doyle, he replied coolly. You realize you don't have enough to make that stick. I've been doing this longer than you've been drawing breath. Marcus smirked. Maybe. But tonight, we have more than enough. Gerald whimpered from the floor. Marcus, please, he made me. Gerald, Marcus warned coldly. I strongly suggest you stay quiet unless you want to add obstruction to your charges. Gerald shut his mouth instantly. Nathaniel shifted gears. Doyle, your little badge doesn't scare me. I fund the campaigns that fund the judges who sign your paychecks. Marcus raised an eyebrow. And that arrogance, ladies and gentlemen, is Exhibit A. Madeline watched, stunned. In the ballroom behind them, music continued playing, glasses clinked, oblivious guests laughed, but here, in this quiet hallway, the fate of a titan was being rewritten. Nathaniel stepped closer to Marcus, lowering his voice into a threat wrapped in velvet. You don't know who you're attacking. Marcus didn't blink. I know exactly who I'm attacking. The same man who tried to use my little brother to commit federal crimes. Liam gasped softly. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. This is business. People like your brother are replaceable. The temperature in the hallway dropped. Damien stepped forward, voice colder than steel. Funny, you said the same thing about me years ago. Madeline's eyes snapped to him. Years ago? Marcus glanced between them. You two have history? Nathaniel's lips curled into a cruel smile. Oh yes, Damien here used to work under me. Brilliant, loyal, predictable, until he grew a conscience. Damien's jaw tightened. I left because you were breaking the law. And you think you're clean? Nathaniel hissed. Everything you have now exists because I built the ladder you climbed. Madeline felt the truth slam into her like a wave. This wasn't just about Chase. This was older than her, older than this scandal. This was a war between giants. Marcus nodded slowly. Good. Keep talking, Lennox. Every word is going in my report. Nathaniel snapped his gaze to Madeline, eyes full of venom. None of this would be happening if you'd just stayed where you belonged, small, silent, irrelevant. Madeline stepped forward, not hiding behind Damien, not shrinking. I did stay small, she said quietly, until all of you gave me no choice. Nathaniel's nostrils flared. You think you've won? Madeline held his gaze. No, I think the truth finally did. Marcus snapped cuffs onto Nathaniel's wrists. Lennox jerked back in shock. "You can't arrest me here." Marcus smirked. "Watch me, T." The hallway buzzed with whispers and movement as federal agents seemed to materialize out of nowhere, escorting Lennox down the corridor. Gerald began sobbing. Liam leaned against the wall, relieved but shaken. Madeline exhaled for the first time in minutes. But before she could process the victory, Damien turned toward her, eyes intense, protective, unreadable. "This isn't the end," he murmured. Her heart skipped. "What do you mean? Lennox is gone. Chase is gone. Gerald's caught. What's left?" Damien's voice lowered. "There's one more truth you haven't heard yet, and it's about me." The hallway slowly emptied until only the muffled sound of the orchestra leaked through the ballroom doors. Nathaniel Lennox was gone. Chase was gone. Gerald was gone. For the first time in what felt like years, the world stopped spinning. But Damien's eyes, steady, dark, unflinching, held Madeline in place. "There's something you deserve to know," he said. Madeline swallowed. "About you?" He nodded once. "I owe you the truth before you decide what to do next." She braced herself as he stepped closer, his voice low and even. "When I left Lennox Global, it wasn't because I disagreed with him," Damien said quietly. "It was because I exposed him. I was the whistleblower that almost took down his first empire." Madeline blinked. "You reported him?" "I did. And he retaliated by destroying my reputation, forcing me out of my own company, and blacklisting me across half of Wall Street. Horizon Equity was born from what was left of my life." Madeline felt her breath catch. "Damien, why didn't you tell me this earlier?" "Because I didn't want my past to influence your choices," he said. "And because I didn't want anyone thinking I helped you for selfish reasons." Madeline shook her head slowly. "You didn't help me because of Lennox." "Ascode." "No," he said, eyes softening. "I helped you because when you walked out of that courthouse, broken, alone, humiliated, you were still standing. You had every reason to collapse, but you didn't. I recognized that strength. I recognized you." Madeline felt something warm bloom in her chest, gentle and terrifying. "And now?" she whispered. Damien exhaled, just once. "Now Chase is facing prosecution. Lennox too. And you." He reached into his jacket and handed her a document, official, neatly stamped. "You're legally cleared of all debts, accusations, and ties to Chase's schemes." She covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. "I'm free." "You are," he said. A moment passed, quiet, steady, full. But Madeline wasn't done. She took a breath, lifting her chin the way Evelyn had taught her. "What about the flash drive?" Damien smiled faintly. "Already delivered to the FBI. If you won." "And what about Gerald?" "He'll testify," Damien said. "Or he'll be charged. Either way, he never gets near your life again." Relief washed over her, but so did something else. Something bigger. A sense of possibility. Damien watched her closely. "Madeline, you don't owe me anything. Not gratitude, not loyalty. After everything you've survived, I want you to choose your next step because you decided it, not because someone else pushed you." She took a slow breath. "Then I choose to stop being afraid." A small, genuine smile touched Damien's lips. "Good." The ballroom doors opened. Evelyn approached with a soft, triumphant expression. "The board wants to meet Madeline," she said. "They want to talk about a permanent consulting position." Madeline blinked. "Me? After tonight?" "You're the woman who brought down 2 corrupt empires in one evening," Evelyn said. "They'd be fools not to want you." "Losis." Madeline laughed, really laughed for the first time in months. She looked back at Damien. "Will you walk in with me?" He offered his arm. "Always." They stepped toward the ballroom together. The lights shimmered, the whispers rose, and instead of shrinking, Madeline lifted her head, ready to walk into her new life. But just before they crossed the threshold, Damien leaned close to her ear. "Madeline," he whispered, "this is only the beginning. If you doesn't to." She met his gaze, steady, confident, unafraid. "No," she said softly, "this is the beginning of something better." And as the crowd parted for her respectfully, finally seeing her as someone powerful, Madeline stepped forward, no longer the woman who walked out of a courthouse with nothing. She was the woman who earned everything. And somewhere across the room, a single camera flash captured the first moment of her new life, ensuring the world would never forget her again. So, our story has finally come to an end. And if you, my wonderful friend, are still here with me at this moment, then something in Madeline's journey must have touched your heart in a way only you can feel. Maybe it reminded you of your own strength. Maybe it reminded you of the quiet battles you fight every day. Or maybe it simply reminded you that you deserve more than the world has given you so far. Her story teaches us something deeply human. No one can take away your worth unless you hand it to them. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." And that's exactly what Madeline learned, that healing begins the moment we stop letting others define us. Life may break you, embarrass you, or betray you, but you are allowed to rise again. Stronger, quieter, smarter, and more you than ever. If this story reached you, if it stirred something inside you, then let's keep walking together. Please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next story waiting to meet you. And remember, your comeback is already on its way.